talk to you about the importance of your no in relationships. But you probably have watched the movie Beauty and the Beast. And one of the things that struck me really strongly was when the Beast was wanting Belle to love him, because that's the only way he was going to move out of being a beast. But he really wanted her to love him, and she was kind to him. But she said something very profound. Remember, she said, I can't love you as long as I'm your prisoner. You see, love requires the freedom to be able to say no. If you don't have that freedom in a relationship, then you don't have a healthy relationship. You feel more like a servant or a slave or a child. You know, even God doesn't ask us to have a relationship with him without our freedom to say no. Part of the healthy ingredients for relationships are mutuality, reciprocity, and freedom. And we're talking about all relationships, not just marriage. If you ask your friend for something, or your friend asks you for something and you are afraid to say no, that indicates a problem, either in one of two places or both. It indicates a problem with you in that you're a people pleaser and that you're afraid to say no. Or the other problem might be is that you're afraid because the relationship itself is not healthy. And you're afraid that if you say no, not only are you a people pleaser, but maybe you're not a people pleaser, but you just know that this person will take it hard and that will affect your relationship with that person, and you don't want that to happen. So you become sort of not just a people pleaser, but you become a peace keeper or a peace faker. If you don't have the freedom and the ability to say no, you form relationships that are very lopsided. And so that's a red flag that says this relationship is out of balance. It's not healthy. And that's why your no is so important, because a no indicates right off the bat that you're either attracting a healthy person or an unhealthy person. If you don't say no sooner than later, you might get your heart attached to someone who is a taker kind of person, and you don't really know that while you're being overly accommodating, because you've never given the other person the chance to hear your no and to see how they'll respond, right? So what I always tell women who are forming new friendships with other women, or women who are forming new friendships with men who they think they might like to date, or even just friendships, say no early in that relationship. One of the hallmarks of an unhealthy attachment is a kind of a smothering, possessiveness kind of thing. So it's really important for you to say no. Hey, I'm going to go out with my girlfriends Friday night. No, I can't see you tonight. I'm going to go home see my parents. Anything. I'm going to wash my hair. I'm going to study. Anything that you would say no to. It's not a big deal thing, but when you say no and the other person says, oh, okay, no problem, I'll see you next week, or, we'll reschedule that. What does that tell you? It tells you that they can accept your no. No big deal. It's okay. They might be a little disappointed, but they'll get over it, right? But what happens if they say, oh, I thought our relationship was more important than that. Or, oh, you have to study tonight? Can't you study later? I really need to talk to you now. And all of a sudden you're beginning to sense, maybe this relationship isn't as mutual or reciprocal as I thought. But you won't know that. You'll never know that if you can't say no. Because if you explain, so we talk about no without participating in JADE. Jade. No, and you do this with anybody that you need to say no to who's manipulating you, all right? No justifying my no. Well, I can't because I have to get my hair done that day, all right? If you start justifying your no, they're going to give you a reason why you should cancel your hair appointment and do what they need you to do. So it might be that you just want to stay home and read a book, that you're tired. If you say that, if you justify your no, they will try to tell you your reason isn't good enough, that theirs are much more important. Their reasons, their needs are much more important than yours. So you don't give them a reason. No, I can't. That's not going to work for me right now. No justifying it. No arguing. No I'm not going to argue with you about this. I told you my answer is no. You know how kids can get us to argue and argue and argue and argue, and then what do? All right, go. Because they wear you down. So part of taking responsibility for yourself is to recognize the pattern, the dance, and don't dance it. I'm not going to justify my no. I'm not going to argue about you with this. This isn't open for argument. All right, I've made my decision. No. I'm not going to defend myself. So if you start saying, you're selfish, you're ungodly, no, I'm not. What makes you think that? I'm not going there, right? So if you can stay out of that jade dance, and I'm not going to explain, don't you understand? I just need some time to myself too. Don't you understand? They don't, and they won't. So don't explain. Don't justify, don't argue, don't defend, don't explain. Because oftentimes the consequences come as you try to do that. Then they shame, attack, accuse, and then you start to feel all those feelings. You know, I'm all about enriching the relationships that matter most. And it's not just your marriage that matters. It's your personal friendships. You see, when you say no to a taker, they either manipulate you to say yes, they guilt trip you, they make you afraid of their disapproval or their anger, or if you say no a couple times, they'll just move on because they're not really your friend.